If anyone's ever watched an episode of The Simpsons and thought to themselves, why do all of these characters look like a child's drawing when they're almost out of crayons? The answer is that the original creator thought that that would be a great way to punch our eyeballs and make us take notice. So to explain, before The Simpsons became the biggest show on earth, creator Matt Groening was often asked by interviewers, why are your characters yellow? And he'd always respond with a stock excuse that being used to catch the attention of channel surfers.
I am too smart. I am too smart. S-M-R-T. I mean S-M-A-R-T.
So according to Simpsons lore, the person who first suggested to Matt Groening to make The Simpsons yellow was a colourist called this... I'm not going to try and pronounce that because that's going to be embarrassing for everybody.
Is that actually true?
We don't know. According to Matt Groening, it wasn't a colourist, but an animator who made the suggestion of turning The Simpsons yellow. And according to him, basically, they sent back a sketch of Bart, Lisa, Homer, Marge, Maggie, just coloured yellow. And he looked at it and went, that just looks right. And you have to admit, Groening kind of had a point, because I can't now picture a single member of the cast of The Simpsons as being anything other than yellow. Except for maybe Smithers, but that's only because he was black in the first season. Black Smithers is best Smithers. I'm going to call it right now. Just one of those things where you watch early episodes and goes, why is Smithers black? And it's, oh, yes, he wasn't established as a character yet.
Hey, Simpson. Burns wants to talk to you privately.
Privately?
I like the theory that he was just replaced by like his twin brother. His albino twin brother. We don't know his story, do we?
Yeah.
People only know the thing about him being gay. Probably one of my favourite running jokes in The Simpsons. The fact that Smithers is super gay.
Happy birthday, Mr. Smithers.
And they even acknowledge it in, I think it's that episode Behind the Laughter, where Troy McClure is reading out letters from fans, and one of them is, what's the deal with Mr. Burns and Smithers? And it shows you like Mr. Smithers imagining Burns flying through his window. Or that screensaver he's got of Mr. Burns like, hello Smithers, you are quite good at turning me on.
You're quite good at turning me on.
You probably should ignore that.
And Troy McClure goes, well, to explain, Mr. Smithers is a guy who works for Mr. Burns.
He's in his early 40s, is unmarried, and currently resides in Springfield. Thanks for writing.
Doesn't he come out in one of the episodes?
He comes out as gay in one of the episodes, yeah. So does Selma. No, sorry, Patty. And they do a joke to it in an early episode, I think it's like season 13, 14 maybe, where they have the gay pride parade, and it's like, oh, there's the Testaments people are still in the closet, and you see Smithers and Patty's arm come out and hear their voices go, we're gay, we're glad, but don't tell mum and dad.
We're gay. We're glad.
But don't tell Mom and Dad. Wouldn't it be great if that man and woman got together?
And that's also one of my favourite lines of The Simpsons, where the gay people in the gay pride parade go, we're here, we're queer, get used to it. I think Lisa or Bart says, we are used to it, you do this every year. Just, oh, don't be a spoil sport. So going back to the idea of The Simpsons being yellow to attract the attention of channel surfers, now that the show is one of the biggest and most recognisable on Earth, Groening's reason for having The Simpsons be yellow has actually changed somewhat.
So why did his reasons change?
Well, originally, before the show got to be the massive cultural phenomenon it is, his reasoning for The Simpsons being yellow was, this will attract the attention of channel surfers. People who don't know what The Simpsons is will flick through their TV channels, they'll spot this weird looking thing that's deliberately designed to be bright and garish and out of place. They'll stop and go, wait, what's this? And then they'll watch it and perhaps maybe become a fan. His reasoning now is that The Simpsons is so popular and so iconic for its art style and the fact all the characters in it are yellow, that when people are flicking through TV to see what to watch, they'll spot The Simpsons and go, oh, The Simpsons is on, I'll watch this.
Gross! Yet strangely compelling.
Which I think is so awesome. Originally it was, people flick through and go, hey, what is this? Oh, I'll check this out, it looks interesting. And now it's, oh wow, The Simpsons is on, I don't need to keep flicking.
Do you understand?
Yes.
So anecdotally, this holds true for me, and I'm guessing, like me, as a kid, you watched The Simpsons on TV?
I did.
And I'm guessing you also remember what channel it was on and what time?
Exactly.
BBC 2 at 6 p.m. And as a kid, obviously, I watched that because it's a cartoon. Oh, this looks interesting, let's watch this. And obviously, The Simpsons was a great show. Like, kids could watch it, adults could watch it. And my parents loved it also. That became a thing which we watched. And that's how it attracted our attention initially. Oh, what's this? Oh, it's funny, it's great, it's good for the kids, good for the adults. Perfect. As an adult now, when I go home, because I don't have my like proper TV anymore, because why the hell would I? And my mum does. And when I'm flicking through TV at home, like, what the fuck do I watch? What are all these reality shows? I don't want to watch Pawn Stars for like the 13th time, or Storage Hunters. Oh, The Simpsons is on. Great, I know that's going to be good. It's like, The Simpsons is not as good as it used to be, but I think we can all admit even the worst episode of The Simpsons today is still miles better than half the shit that's on TV anyway.
Woohoo! USA! USA! USA!
Like, as an adult now, I can rewatch episodes I watched as a kid and found hilarious, and I can spot all the stuff that just flew over my head. Like all this, like the Mr. Smithers being gay stuff, that always just went straight over my head. But I remember my dad laughing like a jackass every time those, like, you know, the Mr. Burns one of like, you are very good at turning me on. I remember my dad laughing his ass off at that, because obviously he gets the joke and I didn't.
There's that bit where the firework comes into the wind and he goes, Smithers, I've got a rocket in my pocket. I know, sir.
You don't have to tell me.
Smithers, there's a rocket in my pocket.
You don't have to tell me, sir.
So thank you for watching the video. I invite you to talk about your favourite Simpsons quote, episode or character in the comments below, because that's what me and Brad are going to do. Right, Brad? Favourite Simpsons quote, character, episode?
My favourite episode, there's a reason for this as well.
Okay.
There's a musical episode where they get all the songs together in one.
The clip show with all the previous songs.
And the reason is because it was one of the only ones we had recorded on videotape. And we used to watch it on repeat.
For the kids watching home, video is what we had before DVDs. And DVDs for the even younger kids, what we had before Blu-ray.
Because we had this and we played it non-stop, I know pretty much every line from every song in that entire
You do realise
episode.
that I'm a massive fan of The Simpsons. I'm going to test you on this, right? Go on, what's your favourite song from that episode then?
I reckon, I think it's got to be the Mr. Burns one.
See My Vest.
See My Vest, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, please, won't you see my vest?
See My Vest. See My Vest, made from.
Real Gorilla's chest.
Then it's This Sweater.
There's no better than authentic Irish setter.
My Hat.
Was my cat.
My Evening Wear.
Vampire bat.
And then My Slippers.
Are albino. These white slippers are albino, African, endangered rhino.
You know it, mate. You fucking know it. No lies here. No lies. I think my favourite song, I wasn't like really a big fan of the songs in it, but I was always a massive fan of the Paint My Wagon one.
Oh, I was going to bring that up. Me and my brother still sing this one all the time.
Gonna paint our wagon, gonna paint it good. We ain't bragging, we're gonna coat that wood.
Right, my contender for my favourite episode is the one where Homer looks after Mr. Burns' mansion.
Look at me, I'm a billionaire.
The one where he's looking after his mansion and they go on the party boat. It's one of the later episodes, and basically they're on the boat and it's the one they have the monkey knife fight.
They'll never know the simple joys of a monkey knife fight.
Give it to him, boy, give it to him.
And the thing that makes me laugh the most is that one of the monkeys in the knife fight is called Furious George.
Oh, Furious George. What have they done to your beautiful face?
Just that pun work is so strong. You have to appreciate it. The way he says, like, oh, I'll throw a party. No parties. No shindigs. And he goes, no box socials.
No parties, no shindigs, no keggers, no hootenannies, no mixers, no raves, no box socials.
Which I think is the best word for a party. And he pulls out like the invites he's made. He goes, oh, I look so good on that bike. And it's him on a penny farthing with like a top hat on. And that's on the invite.
And I look so good on that bike. Yeah.
I think that's a strong episode. Also, obviously, as well, anything to do with Lenny.
Attention, everybody. Work harder. Bye.
I think Lenny's one of my favourite characters in The Simpsons.
Why?
Just,
There's a lot of buzz around Lenny.
but he's got so many good quotes. Like the one where Lisa, when they're on strike for the dental plan, and Lisa plays like the song about why they're on. Like he's got the plan, but we have the power. And Lenny's like, oh, that's really good. But now play Classical Gas. And Lenny's just there like, yeah, that's right, just jamming along.
I'll do classical gas.
Or where Marge becomes the realtor, and she knocks down the wall to his house. Please don't tell anyone how I live.
Please don't tell anyone how I live.
The show is just full of so many quotes for real life. Like, is there any that you use in your life? Any that you like quote a lot?
I've used the one at work where I've said that famous one from Homer where whenever you learn something new, something old falls out of your head.
That's a strong one. I like the one of you don't quit, You just go into your job and do it really half-assed all the time. That's the American way. I love that.
Which episode is that one from? Because I remember the clip of him gliding through gliding through the bush.
This one. Oh, it's the one where
It's something with Flanders,
he becomes
isn't it?
friends with Ned Flanders.
Yeah.
And immediately after this is the one where he emerges out of the fucking bush. So, so hey neighbour, do you want to do something today? Like, oh, no thanks. Oh. And that's the one where he comes around and is like, hey, do you want to go play miniature golf? And he's got the 2 putters, 'cause it's the rip-off of Terminator, or like the homage to Terminator 2. Yeah. He goes, quick, Daddy, he's gaining on it. He chases after him with the 2 putters and clings to the back of the car. So where's your opinion on when like the show died and stopped being
Everyone
as good?
seems to think season 8 is the point where the cut-off point.
I think it's a bit later because I was obviously a lot younger. I rewatched them as I got older, but I think it died the 300th episode. I remember that being, I think I was about 13 at the time. It's all with Tony Hawk's in it. And I remember that as being the episode I watched it and just went, it's not as good. Because the Tony Hawk's voice is Tony Hawk's. And that's the first episode where I realised it's just based on whoever the guest star is.
Hey, are you skateboarding legend Tony Hawk?
That's what my business cards say.
And as I got older, I realised, like, earlier episodes, like, they starred celebrities, but they voiced characters. Yeah. They weren't themselves. And I think that's the 300th episode in my head is, like, that's where it just started to go on the decline of, like, who can we get in it this week?
A lot of people have issues, like the Jump the Shark at the moment, everyone thinks is the Armin Tamzarian episode.
That's the one, yeah.
I have never been happier or prouder to be Seymour Skinner.
You're not Seymour Skinner. Skinner?
But I still think there's some really strong episodes after that. Principal and the Pauper is definitely one of the worst episodes ever made. And it's like such, I think Matt Groening later admitted, or one of the writers said, yeah, that's one of the worst mistakes we ever made. We can't believe we tried to do that so early.
I'm an imposter. That man is the real Seymour Skinner.
Although I will contend that episode has one of the best jokes Principal Skinner's ever done. Where it's where he goes back to being a no-good street hoodlum and he gets on his motorbike and drives off, and as he goes away, up yours, children!
Principal Skinner?
Up yours, children.
That is probably the start of the decline, but I still think there were good episodes up until around, for me anyway, the 300th episode. That's where I think it died. During the 25 or so years it's been on the air, The Simpsons has addressed nearly every social issue to exist, including, most pertinent to today's video, homosexuality. While the episode that addressed this topic, simply titled Homer's Phobia, has been lauded by critics for how it handles such a sensitive issue, early in development, the script for that episode included one of the worst slurs it's possible to call a gay person, which remained in it right up until an actual gay man told them to maybe cut that shit out.
Okay, so let's establish who this gay man was.
Well, that gay man was one John Waters, a man famous for his films, in addition to the fact he owns a mustache straighter than a giraffe's neck brace. And that's not me joking. Okay, so you can see a picture of John Waters, presumably, audience at home behind me now. His iconic pencil mustache was so difficult for the animators to realise without it looking like a mistake. In the episode of The Simpsons he appeared in, they had to redesign it somewhat so it looked like this. And according to John Waters, he found that shit hilarious. And an additional bonus fact about Waters' appearance on the episode is that he accepted the invitation to appear on the show without even reading the script. And according to him, he accepted the invitation instantly because a famous actress, and I forget which one, presumably there'll be a quote about it below me, appeared on the show before him, and he said, if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me. I'll do whatever the fuck you want. It's The Simpsons, I don't care.
So yeah, Simpsons, most people have probably been on that anyway.
Yeah.
Like you get all sorts of like stars appearing in it now.
But at the time, like John Waters went, yeah, if it's good enough for her, I don't need to ask what the script's about. I will accept it unreservedly, and that's really cool. It's probably a good job that they did, as we're about to discuss.
So let's discuss what the episode was.
Well, the episode, like in a roundabout way, is about Homer worrying that Bart might turn gay, and it includes, I'd argue, some of the funniest scenes in The Simpsons ever, including the part where Bart and Homer go to a steel mill because Homer wants to, literally set Bart straight by showing some, here's some manly, rugged men for you to learn from. And the steel mill just turns into a gay nightclub.
They're just topless men that are just sawing away.
Yeah, no, what happens is at the end of the shift, he goes, and I was like, what's happening? He goes, we work hard. we play hard. It's
Oh,
like
yeah,
everybody dance now. It's like thumping techno comes on.
That's it.
Oh my God, what's happening now?
We work hard. We play hard.
And I think it's got the anvil, and it's just loads of shirtless buff men just dancing. And I remember the line always sticks in me when Bart goes, "Dad, why'd you bring me to a gay steel mill?" I was like, I don't know.
Dad, why did you bring me to a gay steel mill?
I don't know.
So the episode is full of hilarious jokes anyway.
Yes, well, it's early Simpsons. Of course it's got good jokes in it.
So what did John Waters' character do?
Well, his character is obviously gay and owns an antique shop which the Simpsons go to. Suffice to say, shenanigans occur, and the Simpsons befriend this character, also called John, which must have been really easy for line readings. And throughout the episode, Homer slowly learns to come to terms with the fact that John is gay, because when Homer first learns that John is gay, he calls him a sneak, despite the fact he never once portrayed himself as anything other than himself. And then accuses him of spreading gayness. Like he treats it like it's some sort of contagious disease that his son's going to catch.
Right.
Hence the name of the episode, Homer's Phobia. And Waters was perfectly fine with all of that because he got what the writers were trying to do, which is, like, you know, put the most prominent poisonous talking points of bigoted people and have them come out of the mouth of the world's most famous idiot. And by the end of the episode, Homer comes to terms with the fact that John is gay and accepts him for who he is in his own, like, you know, particular Homer way.
But what is this about there being like an offensive word in the script originally?
Well, in the original script, Homer outright calls John's character a fag. Yeah. Think about that for a moment. Think about that for a moment. And Waters was asked to read over the script because, one, he is gay, and two, very prominent in the gay world and community. And, like, in that sense, could probably speak with some authority on what people might find offensive about the script or what they might take issue with. And he looked through the script and said, everything's fine, all looks good to me, I have no issue with it. However, you might want to cut out this line where Homer, you know, the character that everyone's supposed to empathise with and be an everyman, calls me a fag. You might want to cut that. And the writers were genuinely confused about why until John explained it's because it's offensive. And if it wasn't for Waters looking over the script and pointing that out, that line may have very well made it into the episode. Like, think about how many people touched that script, how many read-throughs like the main cast did, like how many, like, you know, rewrites it went under, and that word stayed in. And at no point did anyone ever think, let's ask a gay dude if this is okay. John Waters very quickly picked up on that word and pointed out to the writers that, yeah, maybe don't put this one in. And I think Waters suggested they replace it with the word queer, which he said is a perfectly, like, acceptable way to refer to a gay man, but it's also something you can, like, you know, add that little sneer to. Because I think the way Homer said it is queer. Like, you can say it like that and it becomes like, oh, okay, you're one of those. But you can also, like, you know, say, well, you're queer. And it's like, yeah, it's a normal thing. It's just like, yeah, that's who you are. That's fine. But one of my favourite little additional factoids about this story is the only other people who objected to the inclusion of that slur was the Fox censorship board, which is not really worth discussing because they objected to pretty much the entire episode because they thought people would complain, not because of the inclusion of that word, but because it just featured a gay guy. But Nisha, that look on your face can turn into a smile because not only did the episode air without any of the cuts that the Fox censorship board suggested, it won a load of awards, but that entire censorship board just got fired. Who Shot Mr. Burns is a two-part episode of The Simpsons that revolves almost entirely around setting up and then answering the question posed by the title. Oddly, while the animators and writers went out of their way to insert as many clues as possible into those episodes for Simpsons superfans to figure out who indeed shot Mr. Burns, apparently nobody did at the time.
So, Carl, who shot Mr. Burns?
Well, for people who don't know, spoilers for a 20-year-old piece of media, it was Maggie. Goddamn Maggie, the best Simpsons character. Goddamn, like, Maggie has to be up there as, like, best Simpsons characters just because it's a fucking baby who shoots people.
Yeah.
It's like, they added layers to the characterization of Maggie I didn't know they had in some episodes. Like the one where Homer has been attacked by, I think it's the mob, and someone just shoots Fat Tony, and it turns out it's just Maggie.
Who shot all the gangsters?
I must have a guardian angel with a rifle.
It's just Maggie with, like, a sniper rifle. So what?
I can't remember which episode it was, but there was an episode where I think they're at like a kids' party. I think it was when Rufy was coming to town.
Yeah, like the Simpsons rip-off of that guy, yeah.
Yeah, with that episode, I really like how possessive Maggie gets of the TV. Like, someone tries to change the channel and she's like, grrr.
Like a wild fucking animal. Oh man, it's like, I think one of my favourite Maggie Simpson moments is just like, oh yeah, here's like the ball pit for the kids, and you just jump Maggie in and she just sinks to the bottom. Yeah. And then smash cut later in the episode of like Maggie crawling all the way to the top, and you just get a woman look over and go, add more balls, and
The babies look unhappy. Add more balls.
And the thing is, I've been re-watching, like I think most people have been in the UK these last couple of weeks, is what the fuck else are we meant to do? Just all of the Simpsons on Disney Plus, and you just forget how good early Simpsons was. It's so dense with like content and humour. So I contend that there are some early episodes of The Simpsons that contain more memorable quotes than entire seasons of other animated shows. For example, the episode You Only Move Twice with Hank Scorpio, I would say there are more quotable lines in that one episode of The Simpsons than there are in an entire season of Family Guy.
I've been so bored since we moved here. I found myself drinking a glass of wine every day. I know doctors say you should drink a glass and a half, but I just can't drink that much.
And for anyone out there who disagree, you can fuck off. This is a Simpsons channel.
So you mentioned before that during that Who Shot Mr. Burns episode, there was a lot of clues. I'm assuming you're going to give us a few examples.
Yes, and the most obvious one is there is a moment where Mr. Burns himself, after he blots out the sun, which is fucking amazing, by the way, is confronted by what essentially amounts to every possible suspect for, like, you know, the mystery of who's like shot him posed by the end of that episode, and he asks them point blank, "You all want to hurt me, but who amongst you has the guts to actually do it or step up?" Something along those lines. And they have a quick pan across every character who could be a suspect, and every single one of them avoids his gaze or looks away, except for Maggie, who's at the bottom of the frame.
But who here has the guts to stop me?
Like, she's the only one who just continues to stare him the fuck down, as if to answer the question of who amongst you has the guts to step up with, fucking me, bring it, Maggie Simpson, let's go. And another one is that, obviously the famous one is Mr. Burns lies down on a sundial, and he points to south and west, which from his perspective looks like M&S. So Maggie Simpson. And for that clue to not just immediately point to Maggie, during that episode they threw a few red herrings in, which was revealing the names of a few characters who've been in the series for a long time, but up to that point not names, like Mo Sislak.
Yeah.
They only say his last name in that episode to set him up as a suspect. And they do the same thing with Principal Skinner, where they say he's got a middle name that begins with an M, I'm not sure what it is, so he could also be MS.
Well, there's always a silly example that no one talks about.
Yes, there is, because he's fact fiend and I like my research. And the most ridiculous little clue I found out that the animators, inserted into that episode is that there is a literal blink and you'd miss it shot of when Mr. Burns falls down onto the sundial and points to south and west, where you can see that his holster is empty. And earlier in the episode, he shows his holster with a gun in it, and that's like to show you that he was shot with his own gun, perhaps setting it up as an accident that may have occurred. And I found out the only reason the animators included that in the episode is they learned that people were recording episodes on VHS and watching them back. So they included that moment for the people who do that, so they could go through the episode literally frame by frame on their VHS recording of the episode to look for clues.
So obviously they wanted fans to figure out who shot Mr. Burns, so they must have made it into some sort of competition.
They did, and the competition's not really talked about much today for reasons we'll get to in a moment, but the makers of The Simpsons, they were really keen for people to solve this mystery, and who shot Mr. Burns part 1 is I think the end of season 6, and the answer to it, who shot Mr. Burns, part 2 was the opening episode of season 7, so it was 3 or 4 months.
So leaving it that long, they were leaving people in suspense, really.
Yeah, and they wanted The Simpsons to still be talked about during that time they were off the air, and who done it seemed like a very good way of doing that. And according to the writers, Fox were initially quite receptive to the idea of turning it into a whodunit episode and offering some kind of a prize for figuring out who shot Mr. Burns. And there were a couple of weird stipulations to that contest that will no doubt be below me right now in a fact bar. But the funniest part of setting up this competition was that when the writers approached Fox with the idea, Fox was like, yeah, I guess we could do that. What do you want the prize to be? One of the writers said $1 million.
Holy shit.
And Fox were just like, no, think of a better price.
That is a lot of money.
Yeah, it was at the time. It's like in the middle of the night. Fox just went, no. So the writers went away and thought of a different prize, which was a cameo in an episode. The problem was that the person who eventually won the competition didn't want that.
Wait, I don't understand why you wouldn't want to be in The Simpsons. That's like an amazing prize.
It is, especially for, like, you know, a fan of The Simpsons. Obviously, that's who this competition was geared towards. The thing is, though, the lady who won, one Fayla Gibson, wasn't a fan of The Simpsons and just called up on a whim when she happened to catch the episode on TV and saw there was a competition. Like, she just called up and went, I think her answer was, she says it was Skinner.
Yeah.
Which you might notice is the wrong fucking answer.
Yeah.
Which means that she was wrong. And apparently, everyone was wrong because, like, one of the stipulations was we're going to pick up a random group of 1,000 and pick someone who got the right answer from that. But when they did that, they realised, oh shit, nobody got the right answer. And then they said, well, maybe we could pick another group of 1,000. And went, no, because the way we worded the rules is we have to pick a winner from this pile. But no one guessed right, so they just picked a random answer, which was wrong. And it was that Fayla Gibson. They called her up and said, oh, you were wrong, but you won. She's like, oh, that's great. What's my prize? Oh, do you want to be on an episode of The Simpsons? She went, no.
All right, so they picked someone who not only didn't guess the right answer, but also didn't want the prize.
Yeah, which I think is a very Simpsons thing to happen, all things considered. But like Gibson did not want the prize. She wasn't interested in The Simpsons. She wasn't a fan. She just said, I want some money instead. And Fox very quietly gave her, like, you know, a cash prize instead. And to my knowledge, the amount Gibson was actually paid is never been revealed. And for many years after the episode aired, the writers of The Simpsons and Fox didn't like talking about this competition because it was a huge embarrassing failure. Because, like you said, it resulted in someone who didn't watch the show guessing wrong, winning, and then turning down the prize of being in an episode. So Nisha, I'm going to assume that, like myself, you've spent your government-imposed isolation watching an unholy amount of The Simpsons.
I've watched quite a few episodes, not an unholy amount yet, but there's still a lot of time.
Oh, I did. The first day that I got Disney Plus, I watched like 2 seasons back to back, and I suppose I was like, just how fucking good some of the jokes are. That's like jokes that I forgot were in episodes that completely took me off guard. And while you think of one, I want to go for one that, like, me and, like, you know, the group chat I'm in on Facebook with my mates also like Simpsons, like, we just could not stop fucking laughing at it. Is when Marge goes and works at the power plant. Do you remember that episode?
Vaguely, yeah. It's been a while since I've seen that one.
Well, the plot is Marge goes to work at the power plant, but obviously to set that up, you have to have a guy who stops working at the power plant.
Yeah.
And it's just this really old man. And they're at his retirement party, and they go, oh, let's hear from the man of the hour, because I don't want to quit. My wife left me, my kids don't talk to me, my dog is dead.
Please don't make me retire. My job is the only thing that keeps me alive. I never married, and my dog is dead. I'm not finished.
Oh, yes, you are.
And it's just so harsh. And then they just go, and just like the music starts playing and they just walk him off stage. And it's so out of left field that it had me on the floor doubled over in agony because I was like beating my fist against the floor. Like, why is it so good?
So I recently watched an old episode not seen in a while where Homer puts on weight so he can work from home and claim disability.
That is a strong fucking episode.
And I think he makes that joke where he doesn't want to look like a weirdo, but then it cuts to him wearing that moo dress.
Yeah, it's like he goes in. I think the name of the store as well is a joke because there's a lot of like visual gags in The Simpsons that people miss first time round. It's like the vast waistband. So we offer many choices for, you know, the ample gentleman. It's like Hindu body wraps and moo-moos and capes, graduation robes. He goes, oh, like a weirdo, and just give me the moo-moo. And he looks like a fucking idiot. I love it.
I don't want to look like a weirdo. I'll just go with a moo-moo.
And then you have the other one of where he goes to like dial the plant because the fingers you have used to dial are too fat to obtain a special dialing wand.
The fingers you have used to dial are too fat.
It fucking slays me every single time. And to end on, we'll talk about like a little minor moment from an episode that I forget. So I'm hoping like whoever's editing this can find it because it's so throwaway, I just forgot it was in an episode. And obviously when I saw it, it was like seeing it for the first time. And for a brief moment, I was so happy because I was effectively experiencing Golden Age Simpsons for the first time as an adult. And it's just where Homer's just like talking to Lisa or Bart, and he goes, yeah, you need to really listen to signs. Like when you see one that says, do not feed the bears, do not feed the bears. And he holds up his arm and there's just a tiny grizzly bear just on his arm, just growling. It's like, what the fuck is this?
Lisa, when you get to be our age, you'll learn a few things. Like when a sign says, do not feed the bears, man, you'd better not feed the bears. Now get to school, boy.
It's like, and I remember looking and going, that is how you do a non sequitur, stupid gag and build it into an episode organically. Fuck you, Family Guy. It can be done. It's largely agreed that before shitting the bed while backflipping over a shark that was slapping a dead horse with its tail, The Simpsons was the funniest show on TV. Perfect. I'm so proud of that fucking
really
line.
good.
Shut up if you don't like it. Boo to you. Anyway, amongst the pantheon of legendary comedy writers who cut their teeth working on the show, perhaps the most famous to fans is a man called John Swartzwelder. A writer so funny and prolific, many fans refuse to believe he even existed.
So I don't know much about Swartzwelder, so would you like to tell us something about him?
I would love to tell you something about him, but I can't because he's an intensely private individual who's very reclusive, has staunchly refused to give any interviews, and has only ever posed for a single staff photo for the show. But yeah, long story short, he's a very private man, and even writers on The Simpsons who were around at the same time as he was recall that it was almost impossible to get hold of him. That's not hyperbole in any way. John Swartzwelder was notoriously hard to get a hold of, and he was the only writer back in the golden days of The Simpsons given permission to submit his scripts from home. And the story behind that is that John Swartzwelder is a prolific chain smoker, and his chain smoking would disrupt writers' meetings. And it was eventually decided that just the sheer quality of his scripts and the fact that he generally didn't like being around people, it was decided it would just be easier for everyone if they let him just do his own thing at home. And there's a famous story, I think, about Swartzwelder, where he would go to the same cafe every day and just sit in the cafe booth and chain smoke and write his episodes. And then when rules were changed to not allow smoking indoors, what Swartzwelder did is he just bought the booth and put it in his house.
You said he wrote a lot of episodes.
Yes, including some of the best episodes of The Simpsons in the eyes of critics, fans, and me, which includes the first Treehouse of Horror, Homer's Enemy, so that's the one with Frank Grimes, and You Only Move Twice, aka the episode with Hank fucking Scorpio.
Hey, Homer, you're missing out on some fun.
God, I love that episode. That's so good. I watched it the other day and I forgot the moment where Homer just walks in and goes, oh, excuse me, have you got any sugar? And Hank, he just pulls sugar out of his pocket, just puts it into his hand and is like, do you want any cream? I'm all right, thanks. It's so stupid, but I love it. Perfect.
Want some cream?
No.
And on top of this, Swartzwelder also wrote some less famous but still very, very good episodes of The Simpsons, including one of my personal favourite early episodes, the Whacking Day episode, the one where Homer changes his name to Max Power, and the one where Homer buys a gun. The latter of which is probably worth mentioning because it's the only episode we are aware of that Swartzwelder has ever commented on publicly. And before we go on to the specifics of today's video, I have to get whoever edits this video to please put in that clip from the Whacking Day episode of Homer doing a triple backflip and knocking the head off a snake.
So yeah, he wrote a lot of episodes, so why would fans not think he's real?
Well, that's why, because he wrote so many episodes, and so many of the episodes that he did write were of just consistently excellent quality, which led to fans coming to the conclusion that this mysterious John Swartzwelder didn't exist, because when they tried to find a picture of him, they couldn't. And then when they tried to look at staff photos of writers, he wasn't in them. And we know that today because he was just a very private individual and submitted a lot of his scripts from home. But back then, this information wasn't publicly known, so fans started to smell a rat, or a pigeon rat, if you will.
So yeah, if they didn't believe he existed, who do they think John Swartzwelder was?
Well, the theory of fans was that John Swartzwelder wasn't an individual, but a pseudonym used when multiple writers had a hand in creating an episode, and no particular one wrote enough to deserve full credit. And their evidence for this is that all of the episodes Swartzwelder wrote were of such consistently high quality that they could have only been the result of a team of writers working on the script and then polishing it to perfection. It turns out that, no, they weren't. Swartzwelder is just that fucking good. Which has got to be a pretty big compliment, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
When people would rather believe that you don't exist and that you are a collection of comedy writers working in tandem rather than an individual because your work is too good.
Did any of the other writers on The Simpsons hear about this rumour that people thought he didn't exist?
Yeah, they did, and they were kind of annoyed about it because they wanted Swartzwelder to get credit for his work, even if he personally didn't give a shit. And when writers caught wind of the theory that Swartzwelder wasn't a real person, they tried and failed to get him to appear in a commentary track in any capacity, and he turned down every single offer. After a while, they started to annoy the writers, so they thought, okay, how about a compromise, John? How about we have a joke in one of the commentary tracks where we ask you if you want to commentate on the episode you wrote, and you simply reply, no. To which John Swartzwelder replied, fittingly, nah, I don't want to do that. And it's at this point I feel compelled to mention that John Swartzwelder is the rumoured inspiration for the character of Ron Swanson.
Why does that not surprise me?
Yeah, like, one, he's a legendary figure in the comedy world, so like obviously writers on Parks and Rec would know about this mysterious John Swartzwelder dude. And John Swartzwelder, to my knowledge, at least according to the one picture available of him, does have a massive moustache. He's also a very famously private and reclusive individual, which can describe Ron Swanson. But the thing that I think just like sells me on that theory and like connects the two things together is the fact that John Swartzwelder was known to have steaks for breakfast.
Oh my god.
Which is like the most Ron Swanson shit ever, isn't it?
Before we end this article, you did mention that Swartzwelder commented on one of the episodes that he wrote?
Yes, he did. One in particular, it was the episode where Homer gets a gun. On the commentary track for that episode, the writers are talking about, yeah, this is John Swartzwelder wrote this one, but he's really private. He doesn't really like appearing in these commentary tracks. So what we're going to do is we're going to call him now and not tell him that he's been recorded and see what he has to say.
Yeah.
And what happens is they call up a man who they believe to be John Swartzwelder, who proceeds to talk to them for a few seconds. And they have a polite-ish conversation for a few moments, at which point they tell the guy, oh, well, you're on the commentary track right now. Do you have anything to say to the fans? To which the voice on the other end of the line responds, oh, it's too bad you're not actually talking to John Swartzwelder, isn't it? And then hangs up.
All right, John, is anything else?
No, that's all. It's too bad this really isn't John Swartzwelder, though.
So we don't even know if it was him, because no one knows what he sounds like. And that is just fucking amazing. What's your favourite Hans Moleman quote?
It has to be when he's at the Alcoholics Anonymous meeting and he says, drinking has ruined my life. I'm 31 years old.
31 years old. Oh, Moleman.
Drinking has ruined my life. I'm 31 years old.
The Simpsons features an eclectic array of background characters that, over the years, has grown to include hundreds of distinct personalities that range in importance from appearing in a single episode to being almost as well known as the main cast themselves. A good example of the latter being the character Hans Moleman, who is only popular, paradoxically, because nobody liked him.
Okay, so when was Moleman first introduced to The Simpsons?
Yeah, he feels like he's been in the show almost since the beginning, hasn't he? He's one of those characters who's almost as well known as the main cast. Like, if you know The Simpsons, you know Hans Moleman, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And he's arguably one of the more quotable background characters. I put him up there like Mr. Burns and Moe as one of like the tertiary characters with the most memorable quotes. And you mentioned your favourite one at the start. I'm going to mention mine now, which is when he's on the radio station and he's like, welcome to Moleman in the morning. Good Moleman to you all.
Yeah.
Just good Moleman to you all cracks me up so fucking much.
Hello, this is Moleman in the morning. Good Moleman to you.
Like, the character has been on the show for a very, very long time, and his first proper appearance goes all the way back to the Tracy Ullman show, which is like, the show that The Simpsons were on before The Simpsons, where he was a background character. But fans consider his first proper appearance being the 14th episode of the second season, where he's getting his driver's license. And it's worth pointing out that the character was never supposed to be in another episode after that, something that becomes abundantly clear when you realise that the licence Hans Moleman has in that scene does not say Hans Moleman on it.
Okay, so if his name's not Moleman, what is it?
Well, in that episode, his name is supposedly Ralph Mellish, but he's now known as Hans Moleman, and that's like just one of those weird inconsistencies of The Simpsons. That happens as a result of it just existing for so long, which probably has people out there wondering, well, why is he called Moleman? Also, why did you say he wasn't supposed to be in any more episodes, but then he ended up being in a whole bunch more episodes, to the point he's now one of the most famous characters from the show? Well, that all goes back to Matt Groening, who reportedly hated the character.
Alright, so what do you mean he hated the character?
Well, according to the showrunner for early seasons of The Simpsons, Al Jean, there was an informal rule in the writer's room that no background, secondary or tertiary character could look weirder than any of the main cast, i.e. the main family, The Simpsons. And Hans Moleman very clearly broke that rule. So much so that Matt Groening himself, the creator of The Simpsons, pointed him out in a screening of that episode and went, what the fuck is that? Like, he singled out the character of Moleman. Like, what is that? I hate it. It looks like a mole. Get rid of it. I do not want to see it in any more episodes.
Poor Rolf.
poor Mr. just Mellish. And the operative word in that previous sentence was the word mole, because according to Al Jean, Groening referred to the character at the time, Ralph Mellish, as looking like some kind of mole man, which the writers found really, really funny. And they decided to ignore the direct order of the inventor of the show to keep putting the character in more episodes, who they then decided to name Moleman as a nod to Groening's objections.
Oh, that's a brave move to keep putting him in when he said, never put him in another episode, never want to see him again.
As mentioned, this was an informal rule, but it is one that Groening felt very strongly about, as evidenced by the fact he singled out Moleman on his first appearance, like, get rid.
Doesn't he get turned into a mole in one episode as well?
Yeah, there's an episode where Homer goes underground and there's the mole people and they all look like Hans Moleman, which I think is a reference to that original burn from Matt Groening, who in recent years has softened his stance on Moleman and considers him to be one of the best characters on the show. Like, the background characters at least. And he does like him. And I'm glad that Matt Groening likes Hans Moleman, because that meant more Hans Moleman in episodes. So fuck it, Nisha, more Hans Moleman moments. So any other favourite Hans Moleman moments?
When he directs and stars in that short film, and he's like, man getting hit by football.
Man getting hit by football.
Give it an Oscar. That is an example of what the medium of film could achieve if it pulled its fucking finger out. Man getting hit by football is the ultimate expression of the art of film, because it delivers on exactly what is promised by the title. I think another favourite moment of mine that sticks in my head is the episode where Bart wants to get a knife. I think it's where he joins the Scouts to get a knife, and it's like, everyone has a knife except me. And he sees like two people having a standoff, and Hans Moleman's like, you call that a knife? This is a knife. And he pulls out like a fucking Bowie knife that's like 1 million foot long. And then he just falls. I was like, down I go.
You call that a knife? This is a knife. Ooh, down I go.
Okay, so bringing it back to the article.
Yes.
You said that pretty much everybody hated Moleman, not just Matt Groening.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, obviously, the creator of the show objecting to Moleman's appearance, that's pretty fucking big on its own. It's like when Matt Groening, the guy who runs the entire show and invented it, is like, I hate this character. That's one thing. But according to Al Jean and other people who worked on the show, shortly after the episode which featured Moleman's first appearance aired, they got a lot of letters from fans saying, we hate this character, basically echoing what Matt Groening says. Like, we don't like the way this character looks. They're not funny. Please do not put them in any more episodes. And the writers responded to that in the same way by putting him in more episodes, purely to piss off the fans who didn't like him. Which is a move I deeply, deeply respect, because I adore that shit. Like, part of the reason I'm wearing like this green screen t-shirt now is because we got, when we first started doing the joke of having like green screen stuff on t-shirts, blending with the background, we got actual pissy emails from people saying, don't do that, it looks unprofessional.
So just do it more often. And now, like, when we don't blend the green with the background, people get annoyed that it's not transparent.
Yeah, because it's become now a just popular running gag on the show, to the point where people get annoyed if we don't do it. Bring that back to The Simpsons. Imagine you're watching an episode of The Simpsons and a character comes on screen and you go, I don't like that character. And rather than just like, keeping that thought to yourself, you write it down on a piece of paper, take it to a post office, put a stamp on it, and then send it to the fucking studio.
People have got too much time on their hands.
They do, and I think it's quite funny that the writers had the exact same reaction that I do to complaints like that, of looking and going, fuck you! We're going to put me in more episodes! We're going to put Moleman all the fucking time! I genuinely do not know what the people sending those complaints in thought was going to happen, considering this is a show where they took all the stereotypes associated with entitled weird nerds, put them all onto one character called Comic Book Guy, and then made him repeat out loud complaints about the show, which results in Bart delivering one of the most withering takedowns of entitled nerds I've ever seen. It is a quote that will stick in my head till the day I die. And the context of the quote is it's Bart Simpson talking to Comic Book Guy about Itchy and Scratchy, but Itchy and Scratchy is very obviously a standing for the show The Simpsons. During the conversation, it's like, what do you have against the show? The Comic Book Guy responds like, as a long-time viewer, I feel that they owe me. And Bart responds, they've given you thousands of hours of entertainment for free. What can they possibly owe you? If anything, you owe them. And Comic Book Guy goes, worst episode ever. And I fucking feel that in my soul.
So relatable.
In my soul. Fucking hell, Simpsons. On point, as always, at least in your early seasons.
As a loyal viewer, I feel they owe me.
What? They've given you thousands of hours of entertainment for free. What could they possibly owe you? I mean, if anything, you owe them.
Worst episode ever.